Hey Armando, yeah, I want to reply to this. I mean, on the ethics of being recorded, it is a funny thing because even in a public space where you do have a right to take pictures in a public space and you don't have to ask permission for the people that happen to be in the picture, and so there's an issue online with, what actually constitutes a public space, and can we physically tell? Because it's a public internet network. There's no password on that room. A lot of aspects of it are like a public place, yet there's a sense of a more intimate conversation. And so, is it virtually private? I mean, I think legally it's a public space, and so I don't really object. I have some, I'm mentally prepared somewhat for someone to record that. On the other hand, I was surprised to see that it had been recorded, and while I didn't really enjoy watching those videos per se, I mean, I was there, so I didn't really need to watch them. But I did watch them because I was wondering, well, what did I say, So, it is a funny thing. Even in public places, I've always been a little bit uncomfortable, taking pictures and just pretending that people are nothing different from features of the landscape. But, if you're in New York taking a picture of a city street, obviously you can't ask permission for all those people. And if there was a law like that, we'd have no pictures of, city streets. Um, I mean, I do think there's an issue. I would like people to disclose that. One technical thing to notice about detecting if you're being recorded is one, even if you were being recorded with software, I don't think that would be very easy to implement for Stickam. But more importantly, this was recorded, looks like, with a handheld video recorder, and so of course there's no way the Stickam software could know that. On the VR stuff, there's really an issue here, and the viewership in this series of videos I don't entirely understand. I can't imagine it was very easy to hear what was going on. Um, but I guess some of what could be made out, you couldn't really make out what the conversation was, but there were lots of, Gary was saying a lot of things that I guess, people could understand, in isolation. The real issue is that one, I like virtual reality, the idea of it. I'd love to help build it. I'd like to see it, but I don't want to go into a world, a Matrix-like world. And one thing I was arguing with in Mendham is that people like conflict in their games. That's why there's villains in movies, and that's why there's a challenge. And there's something to be said for pleasures that are, you know, truly just about gratification. That's why I used, if you caught it at one point, the Westworld example, these old movies, Westworld and the sequels, where you just go and you basically are, you can't lose. And people like experiences like that to a certain degree, but really we don't see many games like that. There's not football games where you always make a completion. You can lose, and games are very frustrating, and people get frustrated. And if there's no challenge, people don't enjoy the games. And that was an interesting thing about The Matrix. They didn't really go into it, but it was this funny and ironic social commentary on one sense. But when whatever that character, Agent Smith, is explaining that the first versions of the Matrix were utopian, but people just wouldn't accept it and they wouldn't stay in there. And I think there's truth to that. And what I was trying to say to Gary is that here's the thing. I mean, to have a Westworld type experience is appealing when you're not getting any gratification or sufficient gratification, where there's sort of, I don't want to say a self-esteem problem, but, self-esteem issues, but, of the kind that we all might have. I mean, I like, those kinds of experiences in a limited way, but really to have it all the time, if you really had that much need for that gratification, then you're going to lose respect for these people around you. And remember, in Gary's world, you don't know you're in a VR, so you think these are people, so you would just notice that you're practically godlike and they're worthless, and you would not respect these underlings that were, constantly struggling and failing while everything was so easy for you. And you would eventually have enough self-esteem that would no longer be gratifying, and you would seek a challenge and interaction with real people. But even more simply, we could just look at the games we have now, and pure gratification games are not there. The gratification comes from there being a struggle. And while it's hard to understand that we want to be frustrated and want to have difficulties, that is where the gratification um, of victory comes from. It's from struggling, you know. So to me, the secret is not to get more and more gratification. The secret is how to learn from your failures and take a certain positive aspect from your failures, so that it's really no loss per se to fail, or rather, the losses are part of the price you're paying to learn. And then when you have victory, you know, it's much more satisfying and meaningful, both emotionally and also because you have gone through a learning process. That victory, you know, is earned. You actually know how to play football now. It's not just that things are rigged so that even if you're lousy at it, you win. You actually deserve to win, and I think there's an emotional connection to that kind of feeling. Um, so, yes. Um, those are my comments, and I find it funny that this is up there and that the series has so many views. But whatever. All right. Cheers.